despite all the delays, come jam and spend a little bit of a Monday with us. It's time to write a TTRPG. We've got some stuff to cover. Let's go.
I wake up every minute with the fever dreams. I push a mind to a limit where it needs to be. I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I'm picking mind over matter, I believe in me. I need to find more hours in the day to breathe. Need to find more power in the way I be. And when my mind turns out with the painful scenes, I need to scream out loud, I can't stop me. I wanna be the greatest like Rocky. You know I leave them all hating like a hobby. I'm out here making moves like a lobby. And if you ain't with me, it's your loss. See, I got my mind on the facts. I'm a python, grab what I like real fast. Choke until I have everything I attack, everything that I lack, everything that I want, and I see, matter of fact.
Leave it to Jenna to click the wrong one, because in the back end, for whatever reason, past me labeled the opening as the closing and the closing as the opening, because this last quarter was interesting. Welcome on in, everybody. My name is Jenna O'Malley. I am your soul writer, author of sci-fi, fantasy, and crazy things we're turning into a TTRPG don't move shelf a couple of times a month. I do have a friend in the backstage. He's somewhere. Baka?
Yes.
Where? Playouts. Tech Gremlins. Go away, Tech Gremlins. There they are. There he is. What?
It is I,
Ah.
Baka, master of the uncanny universe, and also I have a sword. It's made of wood. It might not.
I'm
hurt.
like, where'd the sword come from? He didn't have that a minute ago. Literally, he didn't have that.
It's
a
a
minute ago.
ninja sword. It vanishes without trace. Oops. No trace.
Like Ninja Pizza.
Like Ninja Pizza and Ninja Pepsi Zero, which I can't open because my nails are too long. There we go. So anyway, hello. Yes, I am Baka. I am Baka, master of the uncanny universe, pharmacy samurai at your service. Also a legendary arithmomancer, which apparently is a thing. Arithmomancer.
You're my arithmomancer because I can't do math all that good. I pretend to know.
Well, I do the math good. I do it very good.
You do it gooder than I does, and yes, fellow readers, I said gooder.
English teacher. So you revert back to ogre speech. Me speak good. Yes.
For those of you who read the Myrna Annals, you'll get this. His best friend, he lent me Toos. His best friend Toos is that ogre. So enjoy. Where are we picking up from last time, dude?
All right. So if you don't mind, we'll be backing up a little bit to section 1B on page 2.
I did mark it. That'll work.
Yeah, because I marked it with red because as a teacher, I felt like you assigned me homework when you asked me a couple of questions. And the first one you asked, because we didn't have a good name for initiative, and you wanted to call it something else, which I understand. I couldn't think of a good narrative name for it, but the names I came up with was more like, theater. Like call it a casting call or a cast or roll call. And the only literary term I could really think of in the time that I had was rhythm. So characters with higher rhythm would go first.
Which, considering one of the classes is a song weaver, bard, that might be used elsewhere. So I'm going to hold rhythm for them because is it Anne McCaffrey that has dragon beats for dragon drums in the story? I'm kind of feeling something like that to be added in for one of the classes. So we're going to save rhythm. I'm going to go ahead and script that one out.
Oh, you have a strikeout. Good. I'm using like I don't know if you noticed based on the file type, but I have like this jank like Temu version of Microsoft Word, basically.
It works. So
I don't know how to do strike through, but all right. We'll let you do the notes. I'll just.
I'm leaning more towards maybe one of the first two. And that's only because I refer to them as my cast of characters. And like when I talk to a co-friend of ours, Jeremy, about drawing the character sketches, I often say, okay, here's who you're working with in the cast there as well. So I'm kind of leaning into that casting call terminology for sure.
Now, that being said, if we're going to use the term cast for, characters and character lineup, I would suggest coming up with different terminology for making spells do. So, not to confuse.
Invoke would be the other choice, yeah.
Like an invocation or manifest, like you're manifesting a spell or a power or whatever we're going to call them. That's just my suggestion. Like the whole, don't use strength as one of the attributes, and strength is going to be one of the major arcana coming soon when we deal with that nonsense. All right.
Actually going to be doing a pop-up without Baka where I'm going to be writing the tarot parts for him to have as notes, and that's probably coming up here sooner than you all think.
It's like
whenever I do a pop-up next.
Without me, that'll give me time to grab more weapons then.
Well, it'll be me documenting doing stuff for you a little bit. I mean, if you want to join in, you're welcome to. So
and it's up to you. It's your show. I'm just the math guy. I just bring numbers and I hold swords. It's all the two things I'm good at, apparently.
And now that's going in a book. You just quoted yourself. Congratulations again.
Oh,
so does
no.
Oh no.
Me with a good time, lady nerd.
So does every roll have to be a skill check? No, we can take turn-based order an attribute check like Grace. Yes, this is where I'm kind of leaning toward, because I often write in turn-based thought process a la think Final Fantasy VII. So
right. So we can come up with scenarios where a skill might not be needed and maybe an attribute check would be better, and we can adjust our DCs accordingly, knowing that most likely these numbers might be a little bit lower. We can even do like a dual attribute similar to Shadowrun, where they normally use like either an attribute and a skill or two attributes to kind of balance out the rolls a bit, especially opposed.
And that's definitely where I'm going to lean, because I'm even thinking like Neftiri, because she does like astral magic that is like, literally making people dream their nightmares while awake, but she can also spit fire out of her hands. That's going to be two different things she's going to have to pull from for that. So the dual notion feels accurate.
And I know, like, when we start getting into magic and traditions, like, we can come up with a whole bunch of kooky nonsense, and then we can still come up with the baseline of what we want, just the vanilla version of these rules to work out, and then come up with little cool, like, talents or skills that just throw that out the window. Like, no, you do this instead. Like, you can, like, I was thinking, like, say if you had elves in your game, and we wanted them to have like a cunning kind of way of dealing with magic, kind of like the drow with their anti-magic nonsense. Like, I was thinking, based on the spell, like you fling a spell at someone, and then the spell determines like which attribute the other person uses defense. I'm thinking elves with their elven magic, they can choose between the attribute that the spell dictates, or with their elven wisdom, they can choose to use like alicuity instead. So we can come up with fun interactions like that all day, but let's get the train tracks down first before we start determining what silverware to put in the food cart.
That's a very good comparison. Thank you for explaining.
Oh, good, because I didn't know where I was going with that.
Members.
I literally went off the rails as I was building them.
I kind of needed you to for the audience's benefit. So if you all watching do have questions, don't hesitate. I see some people coming and going there a little bit. So critical fumbles, I think it's where we're picking up. We covered those a little bit last time, and degrees of failure. What other items do we need to cover? Because I think you said you had another document, or more just in this document.
So this is just more in this document. So I was just going back for those two questions because that was like the homework you gave me last time. I think we still need to go forward a little bit more. And then we could probably go back and fine tune some of the stuff. The other thing was I put down the merit system, because that was like going to be method of progressing, where we would determine how your character levels up. It's not going to be based on like experience points. It's going to be merit, which is interesting because I think that will remove the desire to murder, kill everything because I'll get more XP, right? It's like, no, because now when you level up, you have to think, how do you benefit your faction? Like, does killing a bunch of rats in the basement help your faction? Does, throwing a bunch of like random people in the street down a well help your faction? Does setting an orphanage on fire help your faction? I mean, maybe there's a scenario where that happens, sure, but if you just do it randomly and then get caught and then get thrown in jail because of it, you're not going to get merit from it. And I think that's a cool way of kind of reining in your players from doing stupid crap. Right. Unless you have a stupid idiot faction about, yeah, go nuts, do all this crazy like murder hobo crap, and they're like, yes, boss, whatever you say, and they just go out and clown. And hey, that could be a game too, I guess. I don't know what faction that would be. I don't know how that fits in your narrative, but I mean, someone's going to try to do that, I guess.
His name is Toos. You made him. So you boxed yourself into a corner on that. So for those in the audience who are wondering, the merit system is kind of like a reputation system, a little bit mixed with like military ranking, a little bit. So for those of you who are familiar with my books, you know that you start one place and you can level up all the way to like an elder leader of the Coven clan. So that's playing on those notions a little bit. Other items.
Well, regarding the merit system, there was one thing I did want to bring up, that there's two methods that you can use for your merit system. The first one is going to be just like a point system. Like you need X number of points, similar to how XP is, to get to the next rank. And you can come up with other arbitrary numbers. It doesn't matter. Like you could say 100 for the second rank, 200 for the next rank, and you can just come up with whatever formula you want. But just keep in mind for progression, like they'll get more or less merit based on like how difficult the challenge is, how cool they were, and stuff like that. And then the other type would be just milestones, where you set a certain number of goals they have to take in order to get to the next rank. And it would be very similar to the points, just less accounting. You can just remove any sort of experience for killing others. Yolanda, my good friend,
yes,
is the kind of motivation that they are inclined, make it more based on how you deal with those NPCs. Yeah, you could do that too. And hey, and I think that kind of mentality is built into the merit system because you have to do something for the faction, otherwise you don't get anywhere. Which makes
there's a reason why the queen's younger brother loses favor. We'll put it that way. There's room for that downfall of grace.
I guess it does kind of make your game more about bitchy little politics as well, because you could do the assignment, do it well, but then you make the faction look like a bunch of dickheads, and they're like, well, yeah, you did the mission, but we don't like how you did it. And then the storyteller, I guess, has a hard decision to make. It's like, do I give him the full rewards, or do I just say, well, here's your rewards, maybe introduce a demerit system where it doesn't take away levels, but it might give challenges to future like interactions with the faction. So maybe you're less likely to get like requisitions. Like, hey, can I have some magic potions, for this mission? And you have like 12 demerits. They're like, no, go away, do your job.
Yeah, that would be the fairies who would get that demerit the most often. Sorry, Toos. Anyway, you're probably causing them. So, but you can see where you can even kind of slate it to where, like, if you are, like, you could build in certain merit behaviors into certain factions. Like, if you pick to be a fairy, you probably are going to either be that puckish fairy. I said a P, YouTube, not an F. A puckish fairy, or are you being like a well-behaved elven highborn kind of thing?
I guess at that point, there is another interesting thing about your merit system would be whether or not your game would allow for a group to form that have different, each member is from a different faction. So now it's like, ooh, now there'd be a lot of silly intrigue where they might each have different objectives. Like kind of similar to Living Pathfinder, where we were still all Pathfinders, but based on like which like house we were from, we were given different missions, which was interesting, and we still had to do them while we were like on the mission. I just thought it was interesting that we all had like extra things to do, and I mean, we were all spoon-fed those missions, but it was like a level 1, so I don't know if they got more intriguing at higher levels.
That's a good point. That's a good point. It's dinner time. It's dinner time. Thank you, wife delivery system.
Yes, thank you, my dear. And just remember that these are mine, not Joe's.
I'm not supposed to have the carbs and the gluten, so...
Oops. Well, neither am I, so I'll be eating them for both.
All the ones you want. So... with these items, then, I'm definitely going to have to go in and probably do not just a note-taking session for tarot back lore, but for merit back lore for us then here soon, too. That's my homework. Giving me homework back, bro. All right, continue onward.
And now the student becomes the tutor?
The student becomes the teacher, and remember, the teacher never talks during the test.
Oh, no, I'm in trouble.
No, more like I'm in trouble. If you give me math equations, we're in big trouble. So, are we going on to step 3?
Let's see. I don't think I had anything else to cover other than just go more over the merit system, because I think that was one of the things you wanted to explore a little bit more. I think we can start back, unless you want to fill out anything before step 5B, because that's where we left off last time.
5B it is. So we're looking at ability, scores, traits, those kind of items.
Right. So those were the 5. I kind of left with the 5 traits to represent the 5 deities or gods of your world. See if they might need to be tweaked. If you're okay with these for now, want to expand on them a little bit and move on, or if you want to drill them down a little bit more.
These 5 are probably going to be very apropos. The 5 deities at play are the Egyptian goddess Nephthys. She's going to definitely be your grace. If all of you don't know who she is, she's Anubis's mom. She's the one who makes sure that your soul gets taken care of in the land beyond. Then, of course, you have Yelbinin, who's, the dragon that circles the world, the snake that circles the world. That's probably going to be a cutie because dragons move quick. Also Zeal, maybe. Not sure. Depends on whoever gets the others. Then, of course, Fenris, or Fenrir, rather, for the werewolves. Probably going to give that to the might category. We have Hecate for the cat shifters. You see why I'm like, who do I give acuity? Who do I give zeal? Do I give it to the cats? Do I give it to the dragons? And, of course, we're going to give spirit to the fae because y'all are quite spirited.
And it makes sense that they hold basically the most magical stat, basically. I mean, spirit isn't going to be the only way to get magic, because I figure that'd be based on whatever archetype or what tropes your character has. But spirit's going to be like, you can sense like the spiritual. Like this is like the supernatural kind of thing. Like the whole, like you get the hair on the back of your neck when someone's like watching you. It's like, spooky crap like that. But say if you were to make like a wizard, like you could probably use acuity instead of the spirit for your manifestations or whatever rituals or whatever we're going to call it. We could probably use both because they could do different things. I kind of liked the one thing I liked about Mr. Potato Head was ritual magic. If you don't mind sitting there for a minute thinking about a spell, you keep your precious spell slots. I'm like, ooh, that's kind of cool. That's a good idea. Good on you, Mr. Potato Head.
If you guys don't know the reference, you do belong at this table, but you're probably like, what is he talking about? We'll cue you in later.
I'm gonna complain a lot about the Hasbro situation. I'll try not to, but apparently I can't be bothered to control myself. I have no grace. I have no. Yeah, I'm gonna just say I have no grace. It's like I just say what I want to say. I'm just like blah 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 blah.
And that's the other reason why I brought him in on this, because all of that is actually like anchoring and concreting the ideas further to be more helpful. So we do know that with this, who we're kind of sectioning it off to then, because depending on which deity you go with, depends on whether or not you're a vampire, you're a whatnot, you're so on. So can you be a spirited Draco who is very religious? Yeah. Or spiritual? Yeah, but you're not going to get the same buffers that a fairy is by comparison in this case.
I think that could also be like drilled out in like the lineages or the backstories in the next section. But for now, there was something I did want to bring up would be like how to determine what your scores are. And I think the easiest way is going to be like a plus or minus like system, similar to Dungeons and Dragons, but instead of using scores and calculating the modifier, I think we should just use the modifier. Like, say your might is a plus.
That's actually a lot less math over time, isn't it?
Exactly. Because even if you like decide that we're going to assign penalties to these scores, I think it's easier just to deal only with the modifiers than have to, oh shoot, my score went down by 3 points. Is that a -1 or -2? Easy for someone like me to figure out. I've been doing that for the past like three decades. So you can give my character a -5 penalty, and I just know that a 20 drops from a +5 to a +2, and I can just do that in my head because arithmancy. But I understand you can't just do that kind of math off the top of your head. Whereas if we do the same thing,
some of us bring calculators to D&D for a reason.
No, dude, I still don't understand THACO. Like, people are coming at me like, oh, yeah, you're supposed to roll low in this game. Like, what? Get out of here. What the hell? Like, why? Well, you're supposed to
THACO, man.
Below.
No.
Yeah, you're supposed to roll below your, like, ability score. I'm like, what the hell? What is this? We're not playing golf here.
Like, I was going to say, THACO, the golf of tabletop RPG. Anyway.
So, okay. So, given the example, say, like, I had a might of +4. And this jerk wizard is like, I'm going to cast Enfeeble on you or manifest Enfeeble on you. And it's a -2 to my strength. And I'm like, that's easier to calculate. I go from a +4 to a +2. I'm like, oh, man, my might just went down. I'm like, darn, I'm not as physically strong anymore. Oh, gosh, diddly darn. I'm not going to hit as hard with my big, fat billy club, or whatever weapon I decide to wield. And then, of course, we can talk about later how these scores will affect, like, the cards. Because I was trying to come up with card mechanics based on these scores. Like, for example, I was thinking Grace would affect how many cards you could draw each round because you're, like, quicker on your feet. You can you can get into better positions depending on the situation. Acuity can determine how many cards you start with in your hand because you're less likely to be caught unaware. I figured it could also attribute to hand size because, like, you can keep those options open. Yes, like if you have a really graceful character that doesn't have a lot of acuity, yeah, you'll draw a lot of cards, but at the end of your turn, you might have to discard because those plans just didn't work out because you're just like, oh, like, no, that wasn't a good idea. So I got to start discarding. Also, Spirit. Spirit, I think, was going to be a big one because I did mention like a mercy system. And I was thinking something in the line of like hero points. And that would be based on your spirit. Yeah. So the maximum number of I would say either fate or grit points or whatever you want to call them, something along those lines, would be based on your spirit. And then, of course, you could probably get abilities to increase how much fate points you can hold, similar to when we figure out how to calculate health points or wound boxes, whatever we want to call them. Ooh, what's this?
We have a couple of friends sliding in and out as we're going on. Welcome to Write a TTRPG with us. We're literally writing the Myrna Annals RPG tonight, and he's giving us some background of how to run some of the mechanics for those of you curious.
Right.
Keep going, Baka.
So, yeah, these were the kind of things I was thinking of, like the fate points I thought would be interesting. Like, remember that scenario I gave last time where, say, you're fighting this rock. You know, not an actual boulder. I'm talking about a giant bird rock. I think it's spelled ROQ, if I'm not mistaken. I'm bad at spellings, but I'm great at identifying. I'm great at identifying monsters. But so say it's nighttime and the archer is shooting at this rock. Rock gets mad, swoops down, grabs the archer by his legs, and carts him off into the night. It's the archer's turn. Okay. So you're upside down. It's dark. You're being grappled by a giant monster who still has you threatened because even though both its claws are engaged on your body, it still has a beak to threaten you with. On top of that, you are firing into melee. So that's 5 disadvantages. And with your system, you have several options to make this character like really feel crappy. You could, unlike D&D 5e, which would only give 1 case of disadvantage, you could tell them, no, you're rolling 5 extra dice. You have quintuple disadvantage. Roll 8 dice and discard the top 5 because your situation's On the other hand, you also have a very cool thing you can do where if they spend a fate point, they just roll normal. All those disadvantages, just, no, don't worry. You spend a fate point, you're good. Similar to D&D, where that same scenario could happen, but heaven forbid if that wizard also had a familiar, like, don't worry, you could do it with an assist action. All those disadvantages, gone. Like the dinosaurs. Yes. Forever gone for 1 turn.
But you might have a get out of jail free card. Maybe, and it might work. Very rarely. But
I'm just saying that would only work for your fate points because that's like your character's like inner strength to just push through all those obstacles, and then normally benefits versus tragedies, whatever you want to call them, would basically cancel each other out one by one, and then fate points are like, nah, man, just roll normal, you're fine. Or if it's just a normal day for them, we could give them advantage with a fate point. So they're like, all right, I hope this doesn't miss, you know. And that's what I would recommend, because imagine how cool it would be, that one scenario where this guy's upside down, held by a rock, and then he's like, you know what? Screw you, fate point. Here we go, critical hit. Get out of here.
And this is the other reason why I asked you to do this, because you think about things in terms of the DM experience and the gamer experience, because that is the night everyone will talk about for years to come.
Yes, for years to come. Hey, remember that rock that swooped me out and I plunged an arrow into its chest with a well-timed shot right before he was about to beat me to death? And then I fell 30 feet and died anyway? That was amazing. Fall damage sucks, by the way. # fall damage sucks every time.
It literally can unalive you. Yep. Literally.
All right, so that was all I wanted to talk about with the the ability scores and or traits, whatever terminology. So about spirited werewolves. Well, how about we talk about lineages? So, and I guess step 5C, I guess we could use both lineages and background. So I was thinking lineages, that's what your character is. That's what's going to define them. Like other, I guess, games would call it race or species. I kind of like lineage because it's a little more fluid and means a little bit less about your character. Like it doesn't have to define your character. It's just part of your character. Like what lineage he is.
It also accounts for things like in this realm, you have Scottish vampires because they started human, or they're half whatever and whatever nationality wise. And this doesn't just focus on like race in that context, but also brings into the were you turned? Is this something that you are a changeling for, that you woke up one morning in your 20s or teens and all of a sudden you are this thing? It accounts for both.
Right. I guess that's another thing we can put in here with lineage. We can also put nationality, or I guess country of origin, like a better term, because I know the other thing you could say about like the race and some of the other games is the sub race, and then 9 times out of 10 for humans it's just like, no dude, like what country are you from, what's your nationality? Because humans are like, we're just kind of here.
Whereas for like elves, you get into like the air elves, the prairie elves, and all that jazz. Yeah.
Elves are wild. Like there's wild elves, there's high elves, there's dark elves, there's so many different elves, like the snow elves, the aquatic elves, desert elves. Like it's crazy. There's so many different flavors of elves, and I don't have time to eat all of them, you know? Wait, what?
Never mind. Backing away. So with that being the case, I like the term lineage because it doesn't, like you said, just refer to like their family's lineage, but their personal lineage. And I like how you tied in tropes here, or feats rather.
Yeah. That's a little bit later, but yeah. Because based on what your lineage is, or I guess heritage, or whatever we want to, or nationality, whatever terminology you want to use, we will come up with basically like what tropes they'll get, what skills they might get bumped up. They might get a +1 here and there. And I was thinking too, based on the lineage, it could benefit like one of the attributes. Like you might get +1 of this and then choose a +1 or a -1. Like I was thinking with humans, since they're supposed to be like the most diverse or whatever, we would give them like a +1 to whatever score. We don't care. And then they can choose to get +1 to a different score if they don't mind a -1 somewhere else. So they could just be good at one good thing or good at 2 things, but they have to neglect something else. And
that would also account for, like, say they were a human and they were turned. It accounts for skills they might bring from their human life. Then I'm looking at you, Vovary, Mr. Archer.
Right. And then if we have to mix and match lineages because they became a long-lived race afterwards, then we can come up with something like that too. Not to mention we might, in a later update, because this is where we're starting, we might have to do like what Highlander did in Everyday Heroes, where they're like, okay, if your character's immortal, he's going to know things from his past life. Here they are, and here's how they fell out of favor. You know, so you could have like a really old like Scottish Highlander that knows how to use like melee weapons, and then it's like the 1940s, and it's like, well, I guess I'm really good with the bayonet. I'm stabbing Nazis with my gun, I guess.
Alrighty, so are we done there? And then we covering the next section, because we might be on gear to finish this tonight and pick up next time with an updated, fresh document on my end.
Okay. Yeah, we can go through. The other thing was backgrounds. So lineages are going to be like what your character were, but backgrounds is more like what they've done. Like, because we're just going to assume for most backgrounds, your character didn't start as an adventure yesterday. Of course, we could make a background called Amnesiac, where you literally enter with no knowledge whatsoever what's going on. You're literally a waif at that point. We can make that an archetype, the waif. But anyway.
As he's inventing new ones to add on, we'll add it in.
Yeah. I mean, hey, we gotta have to save some for the expansions, right? The waif. Just put it right there. Yeah, so again, just another opportunity to get some other skills, some other tropes, maybe some gold, maybe some money, whatever your currency is going to be, because I'm not sure what the currency is in ancient Egypt.
Real world currency to the era that the game would take place in. The current module we're working on, the base module, is going to take place back where it all started. So keep in mind, we may be, pardon the cat, looking at a newer, the first council. So keep that in mind. Go on.
So whatever the currency is, it could be based on background, whether or not you start off as like someone in the upper echelon, like the noble elite, or you start off as a farmer or whatever, or a thief. That might determine whether or not you get some bonus equipment or whatever. But yeah, we can start with 5D. Your starting role, which I was going to propose archetype. And starting role being like, well, you can always choose to get more archetypes as you get more merit. And then we can go on whatever rules we want for people with more than one archetype. And then I came up with a couple examples of starting archetypes, but we can always come up with more. So the champion, and I was trying to avoid like actual established classes because I wanted these archetypes to be diverse. Like I wanted someone to be able to pick an archetype, and then based on what tropes they get, it would dramatically change how this archetype would play. Like the champion. This is the guy who walks into danger with a smile. People look at them for inspiration because they take down enemies and look good doing it. Like imagine like this could be a paladin, but like going around like giving people like the ability to fight through wounds, like just by mere sheer presence of will. It's like, no, we're doing great. It's like we're outnumbered 15-1, but we have like justice on our side. Yeah. And people would be like, yeah, this is awesome. It's like I love getting my ass kicked. Stuff like that. And you could easily make like a paladin bard combination, which would be very difficult in most other classes, because you could just go down champion, get X number of tropes that fill whatever your play style is, and just go around kicking in bad guys and then making people feel good about it. The other course, the other kind of physical I was thinking of was the brute. When the brute shows up, you know there will be pain. Few words are needed when actions speak louder than words. I know that's a really awkward sentence, and we can clean that up later.
No, I'm going. It says I'm the barbarian without saying I'm from the Barbaros tribe. Looking at you, Gorgor. Continue on.
I mean, the brute could easily be a barbarian. The brute could easily be like a bully kind of rogue too, where they just go in, they intimidate everyone, and they're like, "Listen, you do what I say, or I'm gonna stick you." If he was British, like, see this knife here? I'm about to fix and stick you with it. But yes, barbarian could be a brute, a fighter, like a really strength-based fighter, even a strength-based monk, just some guy who's just gonna beat the crap out of you with their bare hands because they don't need weapons. They just have the fat in the back of their knuckles directly applied to your face. And yeah, that would just be, you could do all that with this archetype. Then there was the trickster, which you could do so much with this archetype. Because this could be like the whole liar revealed trope, where they're just a con man. They just lie about everything. And this could be a bard, just telling tall tales. This could be like an illusionist, like a a charlatan kind of rogue, or they just talk their way out of anything. Let's see. Tall tales can inspire as well as deceive. People find hope in the comfort of the little lies. Like that's how diverse. That's kind of why I wanted to do these kind of archetypes, because they could be so diverse, and even some tropes could be shared among them. Not all of them have to be unique tropes. The healer. So whether it's a medic, whether it's an actual magical cleric, that could be up to whoever wants to be the healer. They can even do both if they want. They just grab all the tropes for a magical healer to get healing miracles, or they can actually just get medical healing. So they can do kind of a little bit of both. Then there's the noble, which I was thinking the noble could also be a paladin, but more of a martial kind of focus. And
that would separate it from being the noble versus the elder, because the elder is more like a rank that you have to be nominated and voted into, but you don't have to be a noble elder, but you can be, and you can be noble without being an elder, if that makes sense.
Right. It's just the noble would have like a reputation that precedes them. People know who you are for good or bad. And then you could collect enough tropes where it could be like a knight or even a paladin if you get the certain kind of build that you want. And then I couldn't think of another word for it other than the wizard, because the wizard kept showing up. Maybe the mage, and maybe the sage, I think, might be a better name for it, because the sage would be all about. I
hesitated to go there because of Zelda, though.
Again, like it's a known trope. We don't have to worry about copyright. I'm just saying, like the name of the trope itself. If we go with wizard or sage, or because the sage could be you just know a lot of things, and that from that knowledge, we could go into magic, but we don't have to. But I feel like as a wizard, you might have to go into magic, but. All these tropes, you don't have to learn magic. Like that's just an option for some of them. What I wanted to really explore with tonight's episode was, yes, you could do magic with some of these archetypes. You don't have to, because you don't have to select that trope. Then there was the hunter, and again, we'll probably have more archetypes as we think about it, and we'll have to like determine how many we want to start with in the base rules, and then come back to, okay, what do we want to expand on? What other archetypes do we want to explore? And I was thinking this would just be a good like jumping point until we come up with more. The hunter, this could be a lot of things. The hunter could be a rogue, could be a ranger, could be a hunter, could be a slayer, like any type of indirect combatant. Excuse me. That is okay at fighting dirty. Like a lot of these other archetypes, they're like upfront and personal with their combat. Then there's a hunter. They're like, no, I'm just gonna stay in these bushes. You have fun there. I'm just gonna aim for a few rounds and aim for a critical hit. Like silly crap like that. And then this was the other thing I was thinking about that would tie directly into your tarot, was the path. If we advance to 5E. So I hadn't thought too much about how each path would affect your character, whether or not it would be as simple as anytime that there's a major encounter, you can search your fate deck for your major arcana, and then you can start with it. Or make it so that if you draw it naturally, like you could do something really cool, because at that point your arcana is like calling out to you and gives you a certain unique ability that accentuates the arcana of your choosing. Like the one thing I was thinking of was like the Fool, where the Fool's the start of the journey. but they have like the most potential. And again, I'm basing this all off of persona. So if I'm off base, feel free to jump in. It's like, actually, Baka. You know.
Here's what, and I'm going to show this document if we have time at the end or when I do the pop-up. I'm relating the different parts of the tarot deck to who you pick as your deity. So if you pick the major arcana, you subscribe to Nephthys and you are a vampire. If you get the coins, you are this and you subscribe to this person. So that way we can use the levels of the cards 1 through 10 that are in there and the royal suits parts to our advantage in different ways by assigning what you were saying of when you get this card, it's calling out to you to do a certain thing. Question mark. That's where I was leaning. So kind of like what you were saying, but making it to where they only use parts of the deck? Question mark.
Okay, and we can go over like the different styles of play because there's another thing I was thinking about was the particular encounters. I'm sure most storytellers don't want to use the full deck for every single encounter and don't want to make every single encounter like significant because sometimes you just run into a bunch of drunk jerks in the back of the tavern that just think you look like someone that owes them money. And I don't think you want to use your whole deck for that.
Yeah. 78 cards would be a lot to deal with. And it would also mean that players at a table could share a deck too.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Similar to Deadlands, where basically all the players would share a poker deck, and then all the enemies, basically the storyteller gets their own deck to draw from, and that's determines like what their enemies can do, basically.
That's kind of where I think we're leaning a little bit, and we'll talk about that in another episode. But refocus.
Yeah. All right. So whether or not it was just another opportunity to flesh out your character, like what makes your character different from every other human noble out there. It's like, well, maybe your path will differentiate you. And then there was the other idea I had for the world, where someone's like, I don't want to deal with cards. I don't want to deal with that. So you could just pick the world where no one can really do anything with you card-wise. You don't get cards, but you can get another heritage instead, or another archetype starting off. So you can start off with 2 archetypes. So giving someone that easy out when they just don't want to deal with the cards and the dice right away. Again, just an option. Step 5F. Skills, pendiv as talents. So these were the things that we basically put ranks into to determine whether or not your character is good at a thing. And I was suggesting like the plus or minus for the attributes, and we can do the same thing with skills, where you would just get +1 to using those skills at a particular time with an attribute that's going to be best for the application of that skill. Let's see. Wants to change narrative. Yeah. My screen's so silly. Any character. So I was also proposing any character attempting a check without the applicable skill should be rolling with disadvantage unless they have an ability that allows them to take advantage or allow them to roll normally without training. So you would, like, say you never swam a day in your life. You don't have the swimming skill. And then some big ogre decides it's time for you to learn how to swim. Like, picks you up, throws you in the water. Oh, crap. I don't have a swim skill. And then I guess we would determine, what would... Now I'm like, what would swimming be? Would it be might? Would you use your muscles?
I would say that would go to might, because you've got to decide, are you sinking or swimming first before you can actually level out and go into like grace of movement. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Or maybe zeal, because you're like, oh crap, I never swum a day in my life. Help. Like, not to freak out, you know. But okay, but say you're using your might. It's like, well, I don't have ranks in swim, so now I have to roll 4d6 and drop the lowest one because, again, I never swam a day in my life. Let's see if I keep my head above water. And then maybe also then the turn, make them make a zeal check to make sure they don't panic. And then it's like, oh, you're panicking, so now you have double disadvantage because we hate you here. You know, just as they're freaking out, it's like, ah! It was like, guys, help! So, man, I almost stumped myself. It's like, oh, what's the swim skill gonna be? Hold up. Let's see, profession skills. Oh, and then one of my favorite things about like Pathfinder was you pick a profession skill, which is nice for making money when you're not adventuring. Because if you don't have a profession skill, you basically get 5 silver a day, not an hour, a day. I worked all day.
The economy is very slow.
Yeah, I moved. I spent all day moving boxes at the docks. 5 silver. Well, at least I can afford dinner tonight. You know, at the end. But you know, not only would you get way more money if you had a profession that was desired in a particular town, but I've seen people also use profession skills to BS like certain profession roles for certain tasks. Like the dumbest thing I've seen was, hey, I have sailor and I'm on a boat. I don't have the climb skill. Can I use my profession sailor to shimmy up the scaffolding? And I was like, I don't see why not. It's like, oh, hey, I fell off the boat. I don't have ranks in swim. Can I use profession sailor? Because I'm sure I've fell off a boat before. Like, yeah, sure. Like, I've seen so many people getting away with skill theft with profession sailor. It's not funny. Like, hey, like
they do a lot. I mean, technically, depending on what kind of sailor they were, their persuasion skills also sky high if they were a pirate or a merchant.
Hey, I've spent some time in the galley. Can I just cook a biscuit with my profession sailor? Like, he can't keep getting away with this, you know?
His name is Ian Sinclair. Let him try, and he will.
So, that could also be a very creative way for your players to express themselves or their character, is they pick a BS profession that might not come up, but heaven forbid, if they know a lot about that profession, they could just get away with so much nonsense. Like, heaven forbid, I can only imagine what nonsense I could get away with in your game if I chose a profession apothecary. It's like, imagine the dumb crap I could full pharmacy technician being apothecary in your game.
My first question is, are you immune to the stuff you've been taste testing your whole life?
Like the whole argument about using Constitution to detect poison in 5e, the answer's always been, yep, that's poison. We can probably explore that with backgrounds where you can get a taste tester background maybe, and then maybe be resistant to poisons. I don't know about immune, because I don't know how true that is. Like, just being completely immune to a toxin just because you've slowly like introduced it to yourself over time.
Mean, that works for allergens, but maybe certain. I don't know.
I'm sure. Well, allergens is one thing, but because it's a different response. Similar results, different response. Toxins, I think there's a certain level where it's like, no matter how much of this stuff you've had before, there's a certain level where it's like, no, it's going to kill you. Or you just cheat and use magic. Be like, oh, I'll just cast immunity.
Like half of the people in this cast are probably gonna do. So there's a feat for that. Just heads up, there's a feat for that.
I can't tell you how many drinking contests I've won just by casting poison immunity first. To be like, all right, let's get drunk. 20 beers in. It's like, I'm still good. What about you guys?
Technically a form of poisoning. So for tropes, are we done with professional skills?
Let's see. What was the other thing for... Oh, we haven't gotten to tropes yet. We were still going over talents. But yes, we can go over... Yeah, we can go to 5G. 5G? Oh, no. The cancer. Feats and tropes. All right. So, similar to talents, this gives characters options in certain situations. It can give you more options, even change how the character interacts with themselves. Oh God, I have a story in here. It's like, I remember playing Dungeons & Dragons 3.5. And I swear every time I heard someone say, oh, I wish I could do this in D&D, and I would respond, there's a feat.
There's a feat for that.
There's a feat for that. That's what you were saying. I missed it. You quoted me, and I'm just like, yeah. Anyway,
No, I used to say it all the time too, because once
Right.
you get only a couple of books in 3.5, the list of feats is ridiculous when you put them all together and you have a couple of books. So that's why
I had a
be careful
list. I had a list of every single feat in 3.5, and that includes third party. Like
it's a long, almost unnecessarily long list.
I want to say it was around 270 odd pages, no pictures, just pure wall of text of all the feats and their prerequisites, and it was nuts. And I even had a PowerPoint, not a PowerPoint, Excel spreadsheet for just type in your character details, and it'll tell you what feat you have prerequisites for. And I was like, "God, this is insane."
The fact that they could come up with that stuff, geez. So we have anything else to cover before we get to equipment? Because I think I'm adding in the spells, magic, and power section, question mark?
Ooh. Yeah, because I had some proposals, because I didn't get around to the actual magic itself, but I had an idea to lay down. I guess that can be what we focus on next time.
I think I have some homework to do for Big Brother that I might pop up and do before he and I go over things, and I talk at him a little bit next time.
Much. All right, so but before that, we do have 5H, which is gear, which I guess we can also just revisit since we know the era. We know what is basically, around for like equipment, like what kind of armor. The big thing is going to be what armor is available, what weapons, because I think 9 times out of 10, that's what people are going to want to know. It's like, okay, what weapons can I grab? What kind of armor can I prevent from the other guy's weapons that wants to kill me? You know, what kind of stuff you would need for your skills? 9 times out of 10, based on their backgrounds, we might give them the kind of stuff. And then whatever gold or currency they have left, they can try to buy other stuff. And then after
this is key. Don't nickel and dime them. We
don't need to nickel and dime the PCs for all their gear unless you want to. I forgot I wrote that. But yeah, like just give them based on their background. They might just get equipment. Like I liked what 5 Heroes does, where no matter what your background is, your character starts with something like sentimental, like whether it's an old photo or a beat up badge of honor from like their military service, like just really cool, like kind of small personal items that I'm sure would be devastating if some jerkwad with pickpocket just like shoulder bumped them, like, "Oops, sorry, dude," and ran off with like, you know, these baseball cards you've had, you know, from your grandfather or whatever, they just gave them to on his deathbed, and then they're like, "Well, I'm going into a rage." Or the hedgehog
that lives in your sleeve.
It's like just take like the baseball cards from the brutes. Like, "I would like to rage now."
Or the hedgehog that lives in your sleeve. Sorry, Mercury doesn't make it past season 1, dude. I'm sorry.
Help! Who took my hedgehog? Just turns completely goblin mode. Like,
that's kind of how it rolls out. So with that being what it is, and you getting a
who took my hedgehog? For me, knave. Oh, I have a fire spell. Thing.
Yeah, you do.
Fire. I'll set you on fire, and then I'll cut you with my sword. I have a strength of 8. Not +8. That's a -1 in the D&Ds.
Yeah, if you don't know, +8 is -1. That's D&D math.
Yep.
Anyway, with that being the case, I've got some fill-in homework to do since I gave you homework last time. You gave me homework this time. I think it's about time we get to wrap up, wind down. Any final things to add before we do?
Just one simple proposal about magic in your game to chew on before we go. I did kind of like the favor system in, it was like 5E's version of Legends of 5 Rings. So basically, every spell in the game is a cantrip. And mages can cast it all day, which I think that's great for mages because there's nothing worse than being a wizard. And it's like, well, I have one spell slot at level 1. And it's like, well, now I just have cantrips. And that's it. So, and then they just feel like I'm just a guy with 6 HP and a stick now. So I propose you'd have something similar to that. All your spells are cantrips. All of your spells you can cast all day, but you get a reservoir of like magic, like whatever you want to call it, mana or mysticism or whatever silly word you want to come up with for mana points. And that's when you can oomph your cantrips into a more powerful version, like a fire bolt. You can oomph up to a scorching ray, or oomph up to the mighty fireball, or oomph up to like dancing pyrospheres, or whatever they want to oomph it into. So that would be my recommendation to base on your magic system, because that would make it more fun to be a mage. And eventually it would just become them learning more spells, getting more spell slots to oomph them. And
we kind of have something like that already. For example, with the song weavers, the bards, they have something called their siren song. It's like a limit break in Final Fantasy. You can use it once every so often, but once you use it, you can't use it for a while no more.
Yeah, and we can also add mechanics like that where certain talents can only be used X number of times, or even have it where it just takes certain resources like mana points, or whatever you want to call them. And hell, we haven't even gotten into health. So it's like,
we haven't even talked about their personal well-being yet.
Yeah, it's like, but storyteller, this ogre hit me with this big sword. What does that mean? Well, find out next time, chumps, because we're going to talk about pain and suffering when we get into magic, because half the spells make you feel awful.
And I get to write the spells. See you next time.
No!
I wake up every minute with the fever dreams. I push my mind to a limit where it needs to be. I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I wake up every minute with the fever dreams. I push my mind to a limit where it needs to be. I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I'm picking mind over matter, I believe in me. I need to find more hours in the day to breathe. Need to find more power in the way I be. And when my mind turns sour with the painful scenes, I need